This is May the 15th in the year 2026, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. And we're going to talk to you about the Glendora documentary number 3 from the year 2013 to the year 2026. And that would be from ages 85, I think, up to ages 98. And people make such a fuss over Glendora being 98, and all Glendora did was to grow old, and it took her a long time to do that. So we went from Kinderhook, Stuyvesant, to the museum, to Ghent. Ghent is a lovely little town to live in, and it's in Columbia County, below Rensselaer County, and what's the other county that Delaware or whatever, and Amadeus Kitty Cat. Thank you, little clock, little temperature clock. And Amadeus was a beautiful long-haired cat. Oh, he was handsome. And I went to the laundry, and I opened the trunk to get the laundry out to do it. And here's Amadeus in the trunk. When the trunk was open, and I was loading up the laundry, he got into the trunk. He thought that was a great place to sleep. I was horrified, so I went and I got him some food, some vegan food, and I fed him in. I put the food in the trunk, and then I put the cover down so that he wouldn't get hurt. And he was very content. He ate his food and he went back to sleep again. And then we had a gray kitty cat, and we had .com cat. Now let's see, what did I want to tell you? The people at Ghent wanted me to sign a lease, and I was against signing a lease in the apartment. It was a lovely apartment. It was right across from the big hotel in Ghent. And I didn't want to sign a lease. And I said, listen, I'll give you the rent for the next 3 months. I'll give it to you cash, but I don't want to sign a release. And I showed him the cash, and I thought that would do it, but it didn't. And so I didn't know at the time. And listen, folks, are you aware that, at least in the state of New York, that a person over 65 years old who signs a paper legally, a lease, for instance, to rent an apartment, has the privilege to exit from that lease within a month, as long as the tenant gives the landlord 30 days. If you give 30 days notice, any senior citizen can get out of a lease. Now, that's a good thing, I think, for you to know. And so started looking for an apartment, and we went to Craigslist, and there was an apartment there, and we went up to see it, and I liked it. And it was $350 a month. And it was a 1-bedroom. And really what I wanted was a studio, just a studio. But this happened to be a 1-bedroom. We went up to look at it, and I liked it very much. And then I came home, and I called the owner. And I said, we like the apartment. We'll take it, and I will send you a money order, a postal money order tomorrow morning for $1,200. The first 3 months' rent. Well, that was good because we got the rent down from $350 to $300. And I went to sleep, and the next morning there was an answer on the recorder, and the man says, "My wife and I have thought over your offer, and we're going to take it." And that was the beginning of our living in Nassau Village, New York. Please don't get Nassau Village mixed up with Nassau County in Long Island. Nassau is a Dutch word, and it was overused, and it shouldn't have been. But this Nassau County is in Long Island, but Nassau Village is in the county of Rensselaer, which is near the county of Albany, which is near the county of Schenectady, and near the county of Columbia. So what was I going to tell them after that?
Purple House?
Oh, when we came up to see it, the house across the street was purple. That appealed to me. It was a great big house, and it was painted purple.
Garage and shed?
It had a beautiful garage. 2-car garage, and it had heat if you wanted it, because there was a big iron tank in the back of the garage, and it had running water if you wanted it, and it had electricity, and it had those automatic doors that rise up and down. It was a beautiful garage, but it was filled with clutter, and it wasn't part of my deal. And they had a shed, and that one of the other tenants had put there. And what else, dear?
TV show?
Oh, the occupation, the time, most of the time was spent with the TV show. A TV show every week, and it consisted of jokes, and then a Bible passage, and then a hymn, and then a vocabulary, and then the rest was events and announcements. And this TV show was on 77 TV stations from Boston all the way to San Diego and San Jose and San Antonio and Albuquerque. No, not Albuquerque, Los Alamos. It was all over the United States, Chicago, Portland, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Atlanta, all over the place. And that was called the Glendora Public Access Television Network.
U.S. Supreme Court.
The owner of this property started making unreasonable demands upon me. And it was either I take the demands or move, and I certainly didn't want to move. Because in the year 2020, I woke up one morning and I couldn't see. And everything that I looked at when the lights were on, everything I looked at was white. Right now, when I look at you, everything is white. Or, at nighttime, it was black. And that's all I could see, either black or white. At the moment, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 light bulbs in the chandelier. But that's all. Just the white lights. I can't see anything else. Isn't that a funny thing? Why should that happen, folks, in the year 2020, when you're supposed to have 2020 vision? Well, it happened, and I've never seen since. And so, what did I start to tell you?
You didn't want to move out of here?
Yeah. Think how hard it would be for a blind person to learn a new territory, all new supports, all new things to touch when you go from the desk to the bathroom or from the desk to the bed or whatever. So I didn't want to move, and it was unreasonable to make me move. There was no reason to make me move. And so I wrote a lawsuit. I wrote up a complaint in the Supreme Court of the United States because it was civil rights. It was discrimination against an elderly person. And when you have a civil rights lawsuit, it doesn't have to go to the United States District Court in Albany or Manhattan or like that. It can go straight to the Supreme Court. So I wrote it, and I read it on TV, and that was the end of it. I've never had any trouble since. It has been peace. and comfort with the current property owner,
April.
who, I was told, sold a piece of property to Amazon as a warehouse down on Route 9, sold it for $750,000, I was told. What'd you say, dear?
April.
Oh, one of the best things that ever happened to me. I called the school down in Castleton, New York. That's part of Columbia County. And asked if there was anybody who wanted a job. And a young lady did. And she was a senior in high school, and she was graduating, going to the senior prom and going to Washington, D.C. on the senior trip and all those things. And she was a lovely young lady, and her name was April, and she was fresh and as rejuvenating as April is. And she came, and this is one of the best people I've ever met in my life. And yesterday we had our 98th birthday party, and she was one of the ones, and we did it by telephone, by merge they call it. And all of the people who came to the party by telephone. And all the rest of us, one of the things that we played a game was, what did you do from the year 2011 to the year 2020? Well, all the rest of us had these great big things that we did. And poor little April was only 7 years old, because she's only 22 now. But there is a fine, fine person. At 22, she's as a full real estate broker. She sold about 9 houses. Think of all of the money that brought in. And she's so kind to animals, and she's so kind to people, and she's such a good worker, and she's rescued so many animals. And she wants to be a pilot because she wants to be a humanitarian pilot to rescue people and animals. And so that's a big thing that when I met April. That was one of the biggest things in this decade I'm telling you about.
Library.
I spent a lot of time at the Nassau Free Library, much time. Started reading the World Book Encyclopedia there, and I would go up there every day and read it. And then when I started, I could read on the computer then, because that was enlarged. That was before I was blind. And then when I came back here at the Happy House 3, people would read it to me. And I had to find a library who would be up to date on the World Book Encyclopedia, folks, and who would let the last volumes circulate. And I did find such a library, and it was the Colony Library. And they did let that book circulate, and we finished reading it. Amy was very good at reading it, and we finished it. So that's the entire set of the World Book Encyclopedia from Volume A to Volume Z. Now, that was a futile undertaking. Can you figure out why? There's no need of doing that. You can listen to it on the internet. You don't have to go to a library. And one day, Pat, the former director of the library, and a volunteer asked me if I wanted the World Book Encyclopedia. What? They wanted it out of the library because they wanted the bookshelf. They needed this book space. That's when I began to realize that library folks are no longer about books. Libraries are not about books anymore. And they brought that whole volume, that whole set down. And I gave it to the Montessori school.
Churches.
A lot of time with churches. The Sunday morning services, the Seventh-day Adventist services on Saturdays, Bible study groups, Bible trips, uh, special dinners through Lent and things like that. A lot of time was spent on churches. Much time. Did you think that that made me closer to God? Well, it didn't. You say, why? All that time you spent in churches and with church people, why didn't that make you close to God? Why didn't you find the peace that passes all understanding? I don't know why, but it certainly didn't work.
Gathering place.
The gathering place was started by a Bible church. A man and a woman started a Bible church. They had been through rough waters. They wanted to repent. They wanted to make up for the bad things they had done, and they started a Bible church, and they helped people. Oh, they helped people. And at her funeral, which came from a heart attack, I think from helping so many people, people were lined up. That's how many people they helped. They were lined up all over, and it took 3 or 4 hours for people to pass her coffin and pay their respects. Well, anyway, that was called the gathering place, which comes from the Bible. And I spent a lot of time there because I liked the people. They were volunteers and they were jolly. And we had good conversations together.
Methodist.
I spent a lot of time at the Methodist Church. They were always up to something.
Great courses.
And great courses. You know, the learning companies, isn't that what it's called? They go into universities and they have professors teach on video or just on CD these lovely courses. And it's a real entire court lecture series that you would get in a college. You wouldn't have to go to college to learn this. You could learn it just by listening to these professors' lectures. And that was a wonderful thing. And they would be hours and hours long. Sometimes a course would be 13 or 14 hours long, or even more, 36 hours long. And I listened to those, a lot of them. And that was a great deal of time.
Walmart.
And Walmart, the experience of Walmart was dear to me. Why? Well, people would say, I like your hat. And more men would say, I like your hat than women. Does that surprise you? More men would say, I like your hat than women. And then so many people would say, I see you on TV, and they would want to talk about that. But the variety of Walmart and the quality of the products and the low prices, I just was fascinated by Walmart. And I still am today a fan of Sam Walmart.
Washburn.
Greg Washburn was a companion at that time. Greg had an artistic streak in him, and he would buy these old films at flea markets. These old films that were 8mm in the old days. You remember them, folks? And, you know, I understood what he was doing. He would make a story up. He would see a film and then he would make believe it, a story. And it was very good, and I could understand that. And I was the only one that could give him credit for doing that. But he was a good help to me. He worked many, many hours for me. And then on election day in 2016, he died. A young man like that, 57 years old. He always wanted to make a film, a Hollywood film of Glendora and the activities of public access.
Wayne.
Wayne from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, wrote me a birthday card out of the blue. I never heard of him. I didn't know who he was. But when he was 7 years old, at this time that he wrote his card, he was 70 years old. But when he was 7 years old, he was a big fan as a little boy of the SS Glendora, coming from the General Electric television. You remember that chapter? And we've been friends ever since. And his memory of the SS Glendora and all of the things that happened on it is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Patricia.
Patricia was the director of the Nassau Free Library, and she retired after 15 years. And she and I are fast friends. She was at the birthday party yesterday, and she gave us her concept of God, and she told us the fascinating things that she did after she retired, how they went all over the country. They had a trailer that they could sleep in, very nice trailer, that they could pull by their car. And then she said everybody had to say 10 good things about Glendora. Nothing bad was allowed. Next.
Sandy.
Sandy was a Montessori and is a Montessori school teacher. They have a different way of teaching children that's very effective. And very likable. And she's teaching at 67 years old. She's teaching again. She signed up for another year starting in September.
Seventh-day Adventists.
There's a group of people I like. I liked them most of all because they were vegetarians. They believed that it was cruel to eat animals. They certainly believed it was unhealthy to eat animals and ruined your health, and it was bad for the environment. And when they had a fellowship meal, it was vegetarian, and if there was anything on the table that wasn't vegetarian, they had to tell you. So I became very friendly, spent a lot of time with Seventh-day Adventists. And Mormons would come to my door and rap on the door. And I always opened the door wide for them. And they came two at a time, 2 men. And we would read the Book of Mormon. We would sing a hymn together. And we would say a prayer together. And after about 20 minutes, they would leave. And they would come back again. And one of my friends joined the Mormon church right up the street here. 3rd house up the street. Donna joined the Mormon church from those door-to-door calls. And also the Jehovah's Witness would come. One day, they all came together, and I was in that something. Jehovah's Witness was here. 2 young people, very likable. So I wrote them a check for $10. And then right after, on their heels, at the same time, were the Mormons. So I wrote a check to the Mormons. And then my friend was a Quaker, so I wrote a check to the Quakers. And who else was it? Well, that's enough. But it seems to me there was somebody else.
Okay, you are at 24 minutes now, so let's stop it now before you get into your Lincolns.